Hey my fellow travelers, welcome aboard the Flight Madness. It's your Captain Danny Flight here, your favorite English teacher who's lived in China for over 10 years. Today we're going to cover a topic that a lot of you guys will probably find interesting. What is it like being in a long-term relationship with a Chinese girl? How does it feel to live with a Chinese girl? And should you get down on one knee and commit the rest of your life and half of your belongings to a Chinese girl? First off, why am I qualified to talk about this topic? Well, besides the fact that I lived and dated in China for over 10 years, I've had multiple relationships with Chinese girls that lasted over 2 years long. I've met the families of Chinese girls I've dated, and I even lived with a Chinese girl for over 9 months. I also know multiple guys who've been married to Chinese women for years, and I also know a few guys who are divorced from Chinese women. Let me give y'all the Chinese relationship game rundown. First of all, what are the benefits of being in a long-term relationship with a Chinese girl? What do you get in exchange for your medium to long-term commitment to a Chinese woman? Well, Chinese women tend to be very loyal once they're committed to you. By that I mean, once they've decided that they want to be with you, they'll be eager to secure their place in your life and will cut off other guys just to put their focus on only you. Chinese girls typically don't do casual dating for very long. It might be less than 48 hours from when you first met a girl to when she's already camping out in your home, cleaning up things for you, and preparing meals, and doing it with a smile on her face. Don't expect for Chinese girls to stick around very long if you're leaving them in limbo about your plans for a relationship with them. Basically, once you've given the signal that you're looking at her as more than just a casual hookup, be prepared to have 2,000 years of Chinese dating expectations thrown upon your shoulders. I'm serious. In just a few days, things can quickly go from, hey bro, I just hooked up with this hot Chinese girl that I met at the club last night, to, bro, my new girlfriend's in the kitchen cooking me Kung Pao chicken and she's calling me Lao Gong. For you guys who don't know, Lao Gong means husband in Chinese. One of the reasons for this fast movement to establish a solid relationship is that many Chinese girls are subconsciously under a timeline pressure. Although things are definitely changing these days, historically, Chinese girls have been pressured by their parents and by society to lock down a guy who has the traits of a good boyfriend, husband, and father, and to lock him down ASAP. If you fit that description, expect for the girl to be very willing to be your girlfriend and start towards the process of living together, meeting her family, and marriage. And expect the girl to want to be introduced to others as your girlfriend almost immediately. Not introducing her as your girlfriend could cause her to feel embarrassed and lose face, which is a deadly sin in China. On top of having a committed girlfriend/wife, having a Chinese partner in your life can be very helpful for navigating all the red tape and bureaucracy that you might deal with in China when it comes to things such as starting a business and purchasing property. Oh yeah, and it's also great to have your Chinese girl there with you when you take trips to the hospitals in China, and you need to make sure you're properly communicating with your doctor. I've had many times where I brought a Chinese girl with me to the hospital, and it made the whole process a lot smoother. Now, what is it like living with a Chinese woman? Well, you see this blonde-haired Chinese girl in this video? Her and I dated for about 2.5 years and lived together for 9 months. And during those 2.5 years, I learned a crap ton about women. I probably learned more during that time than I learned from the previous 5 years of casual dating and hookups. One thing that really got drilled into my head during that period of living with her was that basically everything you do and everything you say sends a signal to the woman, and that signal is either good or bad. That's why living with a Chinese woman can be such a stressful thing. When you're in the home with a woman, you need to constantly be vigilant that you're not accidentally communicating negative things to her that damage her perception of you and the relationship. Like most women, a Chinese girl wants to feel that she's at the top of your priority list and that you don't make any significant decisions without first considering how it would affect her and your relationship with her. The woman wants to feel like she gets special attention from you in a way that you don't give to anyone else. For example, if you share something interesting with her, try to avoid sharing it with other people or letting her see that you shared it with other people. Let me tell you about one mistake I made related to this in being with this blonde-haired Chinese girl. One time during the pandemic lockdowns in China, I sent a video to my girlfriend of myself riding a bicycle on the way to the fitness park. I also posted that same video clip on my social media. My girlfriend saw the clip I posted online and got upset because she thought I filmed that video specifically for her, and she didn't like that I posted it online for everyone else to see. I know this situation is going to be difficult for a lot of men to understand, considering that it was just a video clip, but you gotta look at it from the woman's perspective. It made her feel bad to see that what I shared with her wasn't special, that I also shared it with everyone else. I mean, think about how you'd feel if your girlfriend told you that all the freaky, nasty things she does with you in the bedroom, she does that with every other guy she meets. You probably wouldn't be very happy about that, right? So a woman usually wants special things between you and her that nobody else gets. That's especially true for a woman that you're in a longer term relationship with. That's why when you take your girlfriend to a nice restaurant, you should never mention to her that you've also taken other women to that same restaurant before, because that will almost certainly put a bad taste in her mouth during the meal. So basically everything you do and everything you say sends a signal to the woman about how you feel about her and about your relationship. And also, the things that you don't do and say send signals to the woman. In China, there are a lot of romantic holidays where men are expected to spend money on their women. If you're experienced in these China streets, you should have these holidays marked down on your calendar so that you're prepared to give your honey pie some special romance when the day comes. Those holidays might not mean much to you as a man, but they mean a lot to Chinese women. I've definitely pissed off at least one girlfriend by not remembering some random Chinese couple's holiday that I'm expected to get her a gift and a romantic dinner for. The point is that you, as a serious boyfriend or husband, are expected to put out constant effort to remind your Chinese lady about how special she is in your life. And that also includes taking part in whatever family events that she wants to drag you along to. In the West, marriage is usually about two people. But in China, it's about two families evaluating whether you're acceptable. Chinese people are generally slaves to their parents, and they're expected to drop whatever they are doing to attend to the needs and whims of mom and dad. I remember one time a Chinese lawyer girl that I was dating had a sudden hot pot dinner with her parents. I was busy working at my teaching job at the time when the girl suddenly texted me that I needed to come to the dinner to meet her family, because they were curious to know about this black foreigner who was banging their daughter. I told her that I was busy with work, but the girl told me that it was an absolute necessity that I come to the dinner with her family as soon as I finished work. Well, even though I really didn't want to, after work I sped off to meet them, shared a drink with the father, and took photos with the rest of the family. At the end of the dinner, everyone was happy and they loved me. For Chinese, it's super important to make sure their parents like you. I've heard multiple stories of relationships ending because the parents didn't like the person their kid was dating. One Chinese girl I know had her fiance call off the wedding on her because his parents didn't like her. She was dating and living with this Chinese guy for years, and then his parents visited them in America, said they didn't like her, and then he got rid of her just like that. So yeah, try really hard to get the parents on your side during that initial meet, and keep them on your side throughout the relationship. For an American, dropping your entire evening plans for a sudden dinner with the family might be something we wouldn't be willing to put up with regularly, but that's normal behavior with Chinese who are expected to follow the lead of whatever their parents say they should do. For this blonde-haired Chinese girl in the video, I intentionally avoided meeting her family and letting them know about me because I didn't want us to deal with marriage pressure given that we'd been together for years. And I also didn't want to deal with her dad constantly inviting me to go out drinking with him. I hate drinking beer, but drinking beer is an important part of Chinese culture that you're basically peer pressured to take part in if you want to truly bond with the Chinese people that you're hanging out with. Expect to regularly have your liver punished by alcohol when you go to family gatherings with your Chinese lady. As I mentioned earlier, I lived with this blonde-haired Chinese girl for over 9 months. And when it comes to living with a Chinese woman, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, are you ready to deal with having the woman around you almost 24/7? One thing about Chinese women is that they usually don't really have any desire to be independent from the guy they're dating. By that I mean that most of them desire to be in the presence of a man or have their man nearby them almost every second of the day. It gives them what they call in Chinese 安全感, which translates to sense of security. And when you shack up with a Chinese lady, You're giving her easy access to satisfy her desire to be with you all day, every day. And this can be a lot to handle as a man. Some benefits of having your Chinese lady live with you is that supposedly you have someone around to help you with household tasks, regular access to their body, and also an activity partner who can join you for basically everything you do in your daily life. For some guys, this sounds like a really sweet deal, but it's also important to keep in mind that you still need to manage the relationship effectively for things to work out the way you want. Constantly having a woman around you who's sensitive to everything you do and say, and everything you do and don't say, can be a real burden. From my experience of living with a woman, you basically need to think 2 or 3 times before you do or say anything, because you don't want to inadvertently do or say something that negatively impacts the lady you're sharing a space with. For example, I'm the kind of guy who likes to use sunscreen. Specifically, I like to use the spray sunscreen rather than the cream one because it's easier to put on. One time I was standing in the living room getting ready to go outside, and I grabbed the sunscreen and sprayed it on myself. The room filled with mist, and my girlfriend who was in the room asked me if next time I could go outside and spray the sunscreen, because it was bothering her to have the room she was in filled with mist. Now, her request was perfectly reasonable. Hey, you're spraying sunscreen. Please do it outside so that the living room isn't filled with mist. But for me, from my perspective, it's like I'm used to just spraying sunscreen on myself whenever and however I want. But now I've got this woman living with me. I need to use my brain power to take extra steps to make sure that things I regularly do, such as spraying my sunscreen, doesn't interrupt whatever it is she has going on. Little stuff like that is what you're going to encounter all the time when you're living with a woman. And it really adds up to the amount of mental stress you'll experience every day. So if you don't like needing to think a lot before you do or say anything, be careful about moving in with a girl, because even your small habits could require negotiation and adjustment between you and your girlfriend. Having a Chinese woman live with you can also make doing your work easier or more difficult depending on how you structure things. Most guys that I know who have successful relationships with women who they live with typically have either a separate room inside of the home where they can do work, or they do most of their work outside of the home away from their lady. Renting an office space that you go to for working is a common strategy a lot of guys I know do, so they don't have to deal with their lady constantly interrupting them during their working hours. Trust me guys, your Chinese lady will almost certainly come up with many excuses to invade your work time with whatever comes to her mind. Bottom line, don't expect to get a lot of work done when you're within the same vicinity as your lady. Get yourself a private war room somewhere far away from your lady. With all that daily exposure that you'll get from living with your lady, one thing that's almost certainly going to happen is the gradual loss of mystery and excitement that you have towards each other. Yeah, living together is fun in the beginning, and you might both be very passionate about having full access to each other's bodies whenever you feel the urge to get nasty, but just be aware that the passion will decrease over time. It's very difficult to be super excited about something that you see every day. The girl will eventually find out everything about you, and you everything about her, and you'll both be exposed to each other for who you really are. So if either of you has been hiding anything during your relationship, it's almost certainly going to come to light for everyone to see. So you probably should avoid having any big secrets that you're keeping from each other before you guys shack up together. This video has many travel clips of me and this girlfriend because travel can be very important for keeping things interesting between you and the girl. If you're both going to the same places every day and doing the same thing, that's going to likely get too repetitive eventually. Traveling somewhere new together is a great way to shake things up and keep the spark alive. By the way, if you're planning on traveling to an Asian country, I recommend you download my free Asia travel checklist. It lays out all the essentials you need to have when you're traveling in and around Asia. So scroll down and click the link to download it now. Going deeper, when it comes to actually marrying a Chinese girl, one thing that you should keep in mind is that when you marry a Chinese woman, you're also marrying yourself to her family, her country, and also her Chinese passport. I know many guys married to Chinese women, and one thing that I'm constantly hearing about is the importance of dealing with her family. You see, Chinese parents have certain expectations on the guy who's dating their daughter. They almost certainly expect that guy to be throwing around some major cash for their family. If the girl's family is decently middle class, they expect for the guy she's dating to have a fairly good career, a car, and a house. And that's just the entrance fee. He'll also likely have to deal with her family way more often than he probably would like. It really isn't easy being a Chinese guy. I'm just keeping it 100%. Luckily, if you're watching this video, you probably aren't a native-born Chinese guy, so you can probably get away from a lot of those expectations her family might want to put on you. I don't know of anyone in my circle of non-Chinese guys who are married to Chinese women who have to deal with the same expectations that a Chinese guy has to deal with. This is actually one of the reasons that a lot of Chinese guys are jealous of foreign men, because we can date their women without needing to do all the things they have to do. But keep in mind that this could be one of the reasons why her parents might not want their daughter to date you. One of my female Chinese teachers lives in Australia, and she's dating an Australian guy, a white guy, and her mom does not like that guy. She says the mom doesn't like that guy because he doesn't want to buy a house in China, and because he's not Chinese, he probably won't buy a house in China. My teacher is likely experiencing at least a little bit of pressure from her mom to break up with this Australian guy and find a guy, preferably a Chinese guy, who's going to bring some cash to the family. We'll see if she folds or not, but the main thing to keep in mind is that things like buying a house symbolize stability to the girl and to the family. Doing things like that shows you're a very solid guy who's reliable and responsible. And those are two traits that are very important to a Chinese lady and to her family. Now, on that note, if you come from a fairly developed Western country like America, I think it's not really clear-cut if there are any gigantic benefits you'll get from legally attaching yourself to a Chinese lady. Most of the guys that I know who are eager to get their paperwork connected to a Chinese woman are usually guys who come from countries with a really bad economic situation. I mean, these guys usually have super weak passports. So one of the top priorities on their list is to marry and impregnate a Chinese woman so that they can decrease their chances of getting kicked out of China for whatever reason. As an American, you don't really need to worry about this kind of thing. There are lots of visa options available for your passport that can allow you to stay in China for many years. And I'm saying that from the perspective of being an American who lived in China for 10 years. Basically, as long as you have dollars to spend, China is welcoming for American passport holders. And as mentioned earlier, when you marry a Chinese girl, you're also tying yourself to her Chinese passport and all the benefits and limitations that come with that. Keep in mind that while the Chinese passport is fairly strong, it is much more limited compared to something like an American passport. China does have quite a few enemies, and many countries make it difficult for Chinese people to enter. Be prepared to deal with extra paperwork and pay visa fees when traveling with your Chinese lady. Are you willing to do that for love? It's up to you. Lastly, on the topic of divorce, one thing a lot of guys don't realize is that divorce laws in China work very differently than in the West. And in many cases, they end up favoring men, especially financially. Basically, in the event of a divorce, most likely the person whose name is on the property and who paid for it is the one who will walk away with it when the marriage gets terminated. This will likely give a sigh of relief to anyone who's afraid of their Chinese wifey suddenly waking up one day and divorcing them. That kind of thing is common in the West, where divorce laws favor women, but China isn't the West, and that's a good thing sometimes. The way the law is currently written in China says that any attempt at divorce require a 30-day cooling off period, and if both parties don't fully agree with the divorce, then the divorce can be canceled. Basically, compared to what a lot of Western guys are used to, divorces in China are usually a lot less impulsive, and they're less likely to completely destroy your finances. If you're a man, you should be happy to hear that. So you guys have been watching this video of me and this girl smiling and having a good time while traveling the world. I bet you're curious about why we broke up after dating for almost 3 years, right? Well, I'll go into detail about that in the next video where I cover mistakes that ruin relationships with Chinese women, so stay tuned. In the meantime, if you want more exclusive videos and in-depth conversations that I can't share publicly, click the join button and sign up for the Bot Bros Club. Bot Bros Club is the area where I put content for serious travelers who want the best resources available for living this travel lifestyle. If you sign up on the Bot Boss tier, I'll train you in content creation and making money online and give you a monthly mentorship call to make sure that you're making steady progress. This is just what you need to put you on track to making money online and being 100% location independent, like me. So click the join button and sign up today, and I'll see you backstage.